Microphone check. Check. How we doing, guys? Hey, happy Friday. This has been an amazing week. I've got to say that I've not had a live in a long time. So we'll see how this goes. I think maybe you've given up on me on lives. I don't blame you. I haven't done them in ages. I'm going to sing a song. Maybe I'll sing a song, and it will. I gotta watch and make sure not to sing. I think I monetized this one. For those who play guitar, you know I just did the drop D, so you know it's about to get real. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Friday. Talk breath work. We're going to talk a little bit of everything. When now some people say a man's made out of mud, poor man's made out of muscle and blood, skin and bones, a mind that's weak and a back that's strong. You load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't call me, cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Well, I was born one morning in the drizzling rain, fighting trouble, my middle name, raising the cane by an old mama line. Ain't no high-told woman make me walk the line. You load 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't call me, cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. How we doing, guys? How we doing? It is Friday. Can you hear me? I don't know. Let's see. Check. Yes, I think the microphone is working. How's it going? It is nice to see everybody. I haven't done a live session in a long time, so I thought I'd get on here. If you take a look at this this t-shirt. This is one of the very first t-shirts from Breathwork Tactics. So some of you guys know I teach two different breathwork schools. So I offer two certifications in breathwork, and this is based off of thousands of years of breathwork, hundreds, almost, we're getting close to 200, but I'll say a little over, over 100 years of science on the effects of breathwork on the nervous system and the unconscious, and all the years and all the hours that I've been spending with clients and myself over the past, since 2016. So I guess that's been 6-ish years. So, right? Is that 7 years? Yeah, 7 years. Oh my God. So I've been doing this professionally for 7 years. I have been a certifiable breath worker. So I've certified in other ways. And then over time, you eventually figure some things out and you develop your own philosophy of breath work. And actually, having said that, allow me to be the first person to introduce you to the title to the new book. Take a look at this. All right. Is it backwards on your screen? Because it's backwards on my screen. Let me know. Is it backwards on your screen? So this is the language of breath. This is the book that's coming out in October. So you can actually pre-order this book. It's October 24th is when that's going to be. Let's see here. And let's see. Is it backwards? I don't know. It looks backwards to me. Somebody help me out. Anyway, that is coming out October 24th. And it's ultimately the breathwork philosophy that, nope, it's all good. Okay, cool. So for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe I'm seeing myself as backwards. I don't know. Okay. I don't know. But basically, yeah, it's coming out on October 24th. And it's coming out at any and every bookseller near you. So I'm looking forward to going to an airport and seeing this book. The forward is by Brian McKenzie, who is a legend in this arena. If you're familiar with the HPP Foundation, he's been spearheading an enormous amount of research on how we can improve overall human performance through use of breath work. And so I'm really thankful for that. But this t-shirt here is from the Breathwork Tactics program. So let's see, in 2020, I was honored to, so I had a friend of mine who's a friend now. At the time, we didn't know who we were, but my good friend reached out, and he, at the time, he was a police chief, and he said, "Jesse, I've read your book." That was my first book. That was a practical guide. I don't have that with me, but that was a practical guide to breath work. So he read a practical guide to breath work, which was my first book. And he's like, "I like what you're doing. I like how you're really practical and straightforward with this stuff. And we need something in the police and the law enforcement world. You got to come out and help us." And so it started off as kind of like, okay, we know there's an enormous amount of suicide. And actually, if you are a firefighter or if you are a police officer, both of those professions, you are more likely to die of suicide than you are of any on-the-job things. So you're more likely to die of suicide than being shot or burned to death or any of those things if you're in those two fields. And of course, we know there's also an enormous amount of trauma, PTSD in the dispatch world. A lot of people don't really think about the 911 dispatcher and the things that they have to go through. And I never thought about that either. And then I started working with these people and I realized, wow, there are some real impacts to sitting there all day and being on the other end of a phone call where a person is having the worst day of their lives. And so I started working with them, and that was back in 2020. And I know back in 2020, when things were the most crazy, right? Things got real crazy back then. And it was very difficult to do any kind of breath work, right? Heavy breathing or breathing in general in like within, what was it, 6 feet of each other. It seems like so long ago. Does it seem, I don't know, for how long does it seem like it's been so long ago? Or does it seem like I think we're still kind of like recovering from everything that happened during that time. But, and I honestly don't know if I can say, there are certain words that you couldn't say on YouTube, or you would get flagged, or it would be like, it would kind of like shadow ban you or anything like that. I'm not going to experiment with saying those words still because I don't want that to happen. But basically, we had a lot of uphill battles, right? We were really having some issues. So I had to do an enormous amount of research. So you might know so I'm a recovering English professor, and my focus was research and rhetoric. And if you're not familiar with that is, basically it's learning about things and explaining things. That is what research and rhetoric is. Rhetoric, you can also use rhetoric in argumentation. But there's expository is one of the most powerful ways to use words, right? Or it's, I guess, one of the most powerful modes of rhetoric. Expository is basically explaining, right? So I did a deep dive in what are the issues, and there's actually a lot of research that's been done on first responders and the effect of stress on first responders over time. So whenever I went into training first responders, at first it was really kind of an uphill battle. It was, at the time, everybody was wearing a mask. Everybody was, kind of off put. And here I was, this guy coming in, and I was trying to teach them how to do breath work and how to do breathing techniques. And I was training them on aspects of how to use their nervous system and things like that. But there were some people that were like, okay, I definitely see the value in what you're doing here. So it took a little bit of time. But what happened was, over time, we started doing more and more workshops. I started being able to do more seminars. There was one time, though, guys. One time, I'm pretty sure everybody that was there was ordered to be there. And let me tell you this, like, whenever I do a workshop or a seminar or a retreat, if you've ever done anything with me, I can't help it. I add jokes to everything. I feel like humor is such an important element of the human experience. And so I was doing seminars with a lot of humor in them, and none of the jokes landed. And I was like, what is with this group? And instead of me actually thinking what is with this group, I was like, man, I'm not really doing a great job with these jokes. Maybe it's on me. And then later on, I found out that I think most of them had been ordered to be there, which uh, you know, there's something to be said about having a captive audience, and then there's something to be said about it is nice when they choose to come as opposed to being forced to go. So, but anyway, Breathwork Tactics came out of that. Eventually, my friend, and again, we started off as just he was a fan of my book, and then now he's a very close friend of mine. And his name is Jared, and he's just one of the actually one of the best human beings I know. And if you follow my Instagram, you've seen a picture of him, I'm sure. And he actually became a language of breath worker. So he's certified in language of breath, and he helped me to create, and he's my partner in creating Breathwork Tactics. And the big thing is ultimately is learning how to make it applicable to officers, learning how to make it applicable to first responders. And so what we've done is we've developed a retreat called the Performance and Recovery Summit for First Responders. So it's the Breathwork Tactics Presents. And so we're using a wide variety of nervous system protocols, a wide variety of physical challenges. So I'm not just all about sitting around doing breath work. While I love sitting around doing breath work, I love lying down doing breath work. I am not the kind of person that thinks, okay, all of your problems can be solved by sitting there. And I'm not the type of person who thinks that, okay, and ultimately you can't, if you're doing breath work and you're sitting there and you're doing breath work and you think that is going to translate to other aspects of your life that are like physical fitness, it can somewhat at first, but you're going to find that tapers off pretty quickly. And what I've found, and what many other experts in the field have found, is that you do have to train these things together in order for them to work together. And so in the Performance and Recovery Summit, it's coming, April of next year. So if you're interested in that, reach out. You can go to breathworktactics.com and more information about that. So breathworktactics.com is our website. You can find out information about also if you are a first responder. So I offer a certification. Now I only offer that to first responders. If you would like to get certified in breath work and take the extra deep dive, I mean, we're talking about understanding breath work in a way that you really aren't going to find anywhere else. And I'm not saying that as like a marketing thing. Like, please don't take that as like, if you but wait, there's more. Call now. That's not what I mean by that. What I mean is that the language of breath is a philosophy of breath work that it reshapes the paradigm. It comes from a different paradigm of looking at what we are as human beings and how we operate. And it's far more based in more like what I would consider the more cutting edge science, neuroscience, psychology. I've been very fortunate to make friends with a very prominent neuroscientist and to have an enormous amount of his time that I really don't feel like I deserved. And the thing is, I don't know why I didn't even make that great of jokes. He was just really nice. And I quote him in my first book a lot, A Practical Guide to Breath Work. And I have a whole dedication to him in my new book, The Language of Breath. Dr. Otto Musik, he's an incredible man. And he's been a friend and a mentor since 2018 for me. So he's been a huge impact on how I understand the way our organism works. And most everything, I wouldn't say there's anything that it's like, oh, I just came up with this, right? I would love to take credit for those things, but I've just been very fortunate. And also I've been fortunate enough to train under Dr. Cynthia Price, who I would consider to be one of the greatest researchers in our time of what we are as human beings, and in emotional regulation, in body oriented therapy. This woman is the gold standard. And I am so thankful to have been able to train with her officially. And I'm working through my levels, and doing some, I'm going to be doing an internship later on. Like, really, really thankful to have met her. But basically, language of breath is couched in that, and it's super, super deep dive stuff. That's what I meant by it's unlike anything else out there. It really is unlike anything else out there, because it's not just a technique. It's not just a singular focus on breath work. It is a complete, I call it a unified philosophy of breath work and self-awareness. So that is language of breath. But breathwork tactics, if this one is streamlined specifically for people who are public servants. So I don't know, do we have any first responders here? If you are a first responder, or if you're related to one, or if you know one, they live a life that is different from the average person. And I don't claim to completely understand it. I know that I've been very fortunate whenever and the thing is, this is a program that it's continuing to evolve. But as we were putting together a lot of the main curriculum, what we were doing is I was invited to go to see how they trained at the academy, and going through structure clearing. And here's the funny thing. Okay, so I don't know if this is nice or not, but I think they were trying to be nice. They were like, Jesse, you're going to love this. We're going to do taser, and we're going to do mace on Tuesday or whatever. You ought to come. You're going to love it. I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean? Like, yeah, we'll tase you and we'll spray you. And I was like, thanks. I kind of am curious what it's like to get tasered. I don't know. Has anybody here been tasered before? I've never been tasered before. Or maced, or something like pepper spray in the eyes. I've seen the videos. I've watched the videos, and it looks pretty painful. They call it riding the lightning. But anyway, and you might be saying, well, wait a minute, Jesse, why didn't you go? They invited you to go. And I'm not kidding. Okay. And you can believe me. You can believe me, or you cannot believe me. But I was actually busy the day. Okay. I was actually busy the day. The sound is breaking up. Oh no. Uh-oh. Check. Let's see here. Is the sound, how are we doing on sound, guys? Thank you, Joel. Check. Let's see. Pepper spray in the oh, you got pepper sprayed, Chris? Oh my God. So in the Coast Guard, interesting. Is it just is everybody else okay with the audio? Thank you, Joel. I don't know, maybe bang here. I'll bang now. Slam. See, that used to work back in the old days. Like in the old days, you'd be able to hit something and then somehow miraculously fix it. And that maybe is dating me a bit, but nowadays everything's solid state. So banging on it typically doesn't fix it. Occasionally you'll get lucky, but let's see. I don't know if I have the option of giving you closed captions, Joel. Hey, by the way, I'm going to be here for another 25 minutes. So if you have questions, if you want to do some Q&A, we can do Q&A. My goal is to do this more often. Here's the thing. I actually really, really enjoy doing YouTube lives. I love interacting with this audience. It's full of amazing people. And as this channel is starting to veer specifically into the things that this is more of the voice and the philosophy that I've been developing, language of breathwork tactics, things, and of course, all the other stuff I'm interested in too. I want to give you guys an idea of what the hell I'm talking about. I think a lot of times, especially if you've been with me for a long time, it's like, Jesse, this channel used to just be Wim Hof stuff. And that's true. It used to just be Wim Hof stuff. And that's what I was really into back then. And it was great. And I think for most of us, it's a great start. But over time, things develop. And as a person learns, and as I've learned over time, there's a lot of nuance and a lot more depth in this beautiful thing that I call, and that we all call, breath work. So, oh my God, Jesse, first of all, Jesse Sargent, first of all, thank you for spelling Jesse correctly. It is Jesse, right? My apologies to everyone who spells it the other way. You've been watching since Midwestern Method. Hope I'm doing well. Thank you, Jesse. Well, oh, John, you got tear gas in the Air Force too. Wow, everybody's getting tear gas except for me. Am I missing out? Well, I'm going to get back to that story. But hey, thank you so much. So Midwestern Method was what I started this with. And someday I'll tell you the story of why I was asked not so kindly to change my YouTube channel from Midwestern Method. And you can't have that name. That's too close to our name. And I'm like, what? But anyway, it was a good thing. And eventually, it's helped me to kind of develop who I am as a person, as opposed to something other than who I am. And I'm very thankful for that. I've been very fortunate to have been in contact with some incredible minds, and it's really inspired me to grow myself. So I hope you guys are ready for a lot of growth, a lot of depth. This channel it's going to continue to grow into a few things. One, fitness is always going to be something that I'm interested in. And that is because that is part of ultimately the philosophy of language of breath. Language of breath is a really holistic philosophy. And again, there's a reason why I had to write the book. Okay. So I had someone say, hey, can you tell me what the book's about so that I know whether or not I want to buy the book? Just think about that for just a minute. Can you tell me what is it that you say in the book so that I know whether or not I want to read the book? Now, first of all, there's a reason why I had to write the damn book, right? It's 60,000 words. So, I mean, I'm taking a lot of really complex things and I'm boiling them down. But just like Albert Einstein once said, you want to make things as simple as possible, no simpler. And I think a lot of times we oversimplify things. And actually, one of the lessons that we learn as you learn language breath, you're going to learn a lot of cognitive science. You're going to learn a lot about how the conscious and the unconscious work together. I've made quite a few videos on how these two aspects of ourselves interface. I'm going to make even more. I've got one coming out about what is the difference between subconscious and unconscious, because there is a difference between your subconscious and your unconscious self. But ultimately, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper, the promise I will make you is that you can still have an enormous amount of fun. You're not going to get bored. I'll make you that promise. And we're still going to have fart jokes. We're still going to have dad jokes. I learned a new dad joke the other day. Why not share it right now? I've got the time. Here's an all new dad joke. How many tickles does it take to create an octopus? How many tickles does it take to create an octopus? Any guesses? 10. 10 tickles. Get it? Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm sorry. And then I'm also not sorry. So the thing is, I can promise you that if you come along with us on this journey, we're going to have a lot of fun, get in the best shape of our lives, and understand what we are as an organism more fully. It's different than I promise you. I grew up, I looked at myself as almost like a robot, like a machine. Like I got a computer up here and here's a machine. I looked at myself as a mind that drives around a body, kind of like, I'm just driving. And it come to find out, these are pretty inaccurate ways of looking at what the human organism is. And there are ways that are going to make total sense to you when I explain them to you. it just takes some patience, and it takes some willingness to unlearn so that we can relearn. And so the nice thing is, these are not just my ideas. These are essentially, I've been able to read an enormous amount of literature about this. And I promise you, you're not missing out on this. When I talk about the literature that I'm scouring through, I mean, it's not fun reading. There's no audiobooks. Some of them have audiobooks, and they're just, God, oh, it's so hard to make it through. But it's worthwhile as you know. So I'll take care of that part for you. But I'll give you also my bibliography as I go along. James going. Great achievement, Jesse. Well done, my friend. Well, thank you, brother. Love your content. And I use your guided cold showers. Oh, James, you're the best. Okay. So the guided cold shower video, I honestly thought this is going to be my viral video. This is the one. and because I was like, okay, I don't know about who here. Tell me the truth. One thing I used to do, and I still do it before I go work out. A lot of times, even while I'm working out, if I'm doing like a home workout, I will watch like gym motivation videos, or when I'm doing like breath work, I like to have a guided track. And I thought, there's a lot of guided tracks for breath work. There's a lot of motivation for breath work, but there's not really a guided track for cold showers. Why not create one of those? So James, I'm so happy that you're enjoying that. And guess what, James? So, and then everybody else. So yes. So shameless plug. And you can't buy this book. And you'll notice it says, I don't know if you can see how it says this up here at the top, this right here. So actually, even the cover is going to slightly change. It's going to have Patrick McKeown's quote. So Patrick McKeown, he wrote a really cool blurb about this book. And so I've got Patrick McKeown's seal of approval on it. It's going to be on the front. And then it's going to say it's going to say Brian McKenzie forward. Richie Bostock wrote the afterword. These guys are beautiful heroes of mine. I just love those guys. So it's going to change a little bit. You can pre-order now if you want to take a look and see what it costs, or if you want to pre-order, that would be great. But we're also going to have a challenge this fall. So we're going to do a free challenge, and I'm going to guide you through some of the language of breath, so you kind of get a taste for how it is something all of it's on its own, right? So that it's not just a copy or just what everybody else is doing. It's just, but they call it language of breath now. It is something really kind of special. And I know I'm probably a little biased calling it special. But I promise you, it is different from everything else. And so we're going to have a free challenge. So stick around for that. And if you're on my email list on jessecoomer.com, or if you're on my email list, if you haven't already gone to languageofbreathcollective.com, that is the website for the Language of Breath. You can see all of the breath workers that graduated in 2022. And I think this weekend we're going to get the pictures back from the last graduation. So when you graduate with me, so Chris, here's some other things I forgot to tell you if you're still on here. I was just talking to Chris about this. So when you go through the Language of Breath certification, not only do you get an enormous amount of really in-depth, hey, this is the foundation. This is how I can help myself and my clients, really deep training in a vast amount of modalities, techniques. You also get, I pay so that you have professional photos. So I want to send everybody home with professional headshots, professional videos of you guiding breath work, like beautiful photos of you doing exactly the thing that you're going to go out into the world doing. Because some of you guys might be familiar with like some of my pictures of me early on in my breathwork practice. Whenever I was doing breathwork, I was doing like selfies and stuff. And I was like, see, this is what I do for a living. It's so hard to say, especially when it comes to breathwork, what do you do? And it's hard to just say, well, okay, we're going to do some awareness and some breathwork. And so I send you home with some you know what I'm talking about, Chris, with the terrible selfies. You'll get like somebody will be nice enough to take a few pictures at a workshop or a seminar on their phone, and it's nice of them, but it's not really that great. So so you get to go home with professional shots. So if you go to languageofbreathcollective.com right now, you can see the professional shots from our first year, from the first class. And then we're going to be adding, I think we welcomed in 11 or 12 new breath workers. And we're talking about just an all-star class. This last class, I cannot tell you enough good about them. We're going to do a summit and you get to meet some of them soon. These are amazing people. We've got people from all walks of life. We've got a lot of psychologists, physical therapy. We have a physical therapist, personal trainers, yoga instructors, people from all walks of life. And every time I take applications, because I don't just let everybody in. I'm not looking to, I want to make sure I have quality people. And when I say that, every year I turn down people who are just like kind of what I call a breathwork Yahoo. And maybe we'll go into what that is later on. But I don't want jackasses representing Language of Breath. And I don't want to work with a jackass. So I try to screen the jackasses out before we get together and really train, because it's in-depth training. And I don't want to waste your time or my time. But I always look for at least a few Jessies. Now, I know I just said I don't want any jackasses. And yes, okay, guilty as charged. Maybe the right kind of jackass is what I'm looking for. But I look for a few Jessies, a few people like myself. When I got into breath work, I was not in shape. I was the forever bulk guy. So I did lift weights at the time when I got into breath work, but that's all I did. And I'd never coached before. I was a professor. So I was an English professor. So I guess I did have some public speaking skills, but I mean, when you think English professor, oh yeah, he'd make a great breath worker. A lot of people wouldn't make that correlation, but what I'm looking for is people who have some of those qualities that I think that would really translate into being, a good breath worker. So I'm not necessarily, you don't have to be a therapist or a coach or a yoga instructor or a personal trainer already. We had, I think, 3 Jessies. I call them Jessies. And actually one guy his name is Jesse. And he spells it Jesse as well, Jesse Sargent. So we gotta stick up for that spelling. But anyway, that is something that I find to be so gratifying and so humbling, is these new classes that are just full of amazing people. So we are taking applications for the 2024 class now. We've already received quite a few good applicants, and I've already accepted at least a handful of people. And I know of a few other people that are like circling around, but we haven't even really put out a big mailer or any kind of, it's not like we're marketing yet. So that's something, if you want to get in on that, we do have limited space. We're looking at a class this for next year that you're going to learn a lot of cool stuff. Let me just tell you that. And if you want to find out more, you can always reach out. Go to jessecoomer.com or languageofbreathcollective.com to know more about that. James Going says, I will order soon. Patrick is a good guy from the Republic of Ireland. Yeah, Patrick McEwen is, so far, out of all the people that I've interacted with in the world of breathwork, he is one of the most, when it comes to like stand-up guy, just very kind person. He does his research, and he's a good researcher, and he's a good writer. His books are really thorough. Sometimes they're so thorough that they're intimidating, but that's fine. And I'm a real big fan of Patrick McEwen. He's done more for the breathwork world than I would say just about anybody has. And I'm a huge fan. So whenever I sent him a copy of my book, and whenever he read it and sent back a positive review, I was like, hell yeah, thank you. So big thanks to Patrick McEwen. Let's see, John Gillibrath. He says, question: in some of your guided practice, you say to exhale through the mouth or the nose, and some only through the nose. What is the difference? Well, one is through the nose, and the other. I'm teasing. I was going to be a real smart aleck because it's Friday and I'm feeling good. So there is a difference, and ideally, so over time. So John, you've been with me. Here's the thing: if you've been with me in the Patreon club since the beginning of the Patreon club, you have witnessed my growth. You have been there walking with me as I have learned and developed. So if you're not in the Patreon club and you want to find the archaeological evidence of my development as a breath worker, you can go and it's all there. And basically the Patreon club, I've been experimenting and as I experiment and as I developed my breathwork practice and philosophy, eventually became a philosophy. It's not just a practice. It's not just a technique that I like. It's not just a, this or that. I know, John, you're in, man. I mean, the thing is, ultimately, you're going to find out. I'm going to teach you all about this, John. But when it comes to the nasal, I'm a firm believer in nasal breathing, not because of the tape your mouth shut. There's a whole crowd out there that's really overdone it. But there's a reason why the yogis, okay, there's a reason why the yogis were primarily, it was almost always nasal breathing. And an enormous amount of research and mostly off of my own practice, the practice of my clients, I have found that the best possible practice is going to be with nasal breathing. And we're talking about in breathwork sessions. So I don't care if you're doing fast breathing, if you're doing hyperventilative style, I don't care what kind of breathing you're doing. The vast majority of all of those should be nasal breathing only, unless it causes you discomfort. If it causes you discomfort, here's the problem. I don't know if you guys have these sort of things, but for my whole life, I don't know, there is something with this nasal passage that causes me to have, if I don't watch, I have to be very careful and diligent with my overall breathing hygiene. But if I don't watch, I can really mess up my ear because of the inhales and exhales. So I don't want that to happen to you. And so exhaling and inhaling through the mouth, there's a time and place for that, but the vast majority should be in and out through the nose. And it has to do, John, with what you're stimulating. So I'll give you a hint, the olfactory nerve. Okay. So we know that the olfactory nerve is connected to parts of our brain that are very related to memories and emotions. And so when we practice breath work, especially if we're practicing using the language of breath philosophy, we're wanting to tap into a lot of those things as we go. So I'll explain more of that later. I do need to run in about 5 minutes. Let me see if there's anything else here. James Going says, breath work is a full-time job. It's basically working on yourself whilst helping other people. Be kind to one another. Yes, is your phrase. Yeah, being kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to other people. Kindness is something that it's one of those things, and there's different philosophies on motivation, on why you do what you do. But kindness is one of those things that everyone wins. And it's this strange thing that everyone wins from, but it doesn't seem like that when you're about to try to do it. It seems like kindness is this thing where you genuinely don't have the goal of getting something or gaining something, but you do but you actually do gain something, is what I mean to say. When you are kind, the world gains something when you're kind. And it's an interesting thing because to be kind is to be in a place of that would allow you to be kind. And I know that sounds kind of weird. Again, one of the things that this channel is getting more and more into, and I'll just warn you, is philosophy. So as a recovering English professor. I need an outlet. I haven't been an English professor now. I retired from English professoring. Let's see. I walked with the graduating class of 2021, I think 2021 or 2022. So I've been out of professoring for a little over a year, and I miss having a place to discuss philosophy. And yes, my favorite kind of philosophy is Western philosophy. And some people are like, "Oh, Western philosophy," except for if it's Stoicism and everybody likes it, right? There's other kinds of philosophy, and there's a lot of amazing things we're going to discuss on this channel. Stoicism is one of them. It's a wonderful school of philosophy that I apply, and I think it's a really it's a beautiful school of philosophy that we'll talk about on this channel as well. But anyway, kindness is one of these things that ultimately it even elevates you in the relative to where you were, because, well, I don't have time to go on and on. Be kind. It really, everyone wins. It's a beautiful thing, kindness is, and it's different than niceness. And actually, Sean, one of actually he's on my team now. He was YouTube subscriber, and then later on he contacted me, and now he is my help support. If you have problems with the online, anything with the courses that I do, Sean, his name is Sean Sebastian, and he will be taking care of you. He's my right-hand man now. But a long time ago, he reached out to me and he said, I used to say, go out there and be nice. And so we started looking at the etymology behind the word nice and where it comes from and the root words. And kindness is actually the one that I meant, so be kind. And thanks so much for being here, guys. I look forward to doing YouTube lives more often. And so stick around. If you have questions, and you got to understand, this is more than just a breathwork channel. Yes, breathwork is my primary focus, but it's only that because of its connection to our psychology, life philosophy, fitness, wellness, health. It's all one thing. It's not like these are like, I know a lot of times you need a channel for each one of your different interests, but I can't separate them because I see them as all one thing, just different shades of the same color. So guys, I want to thank you for being here. I want you to have an amazing weekend. Go out there, be kind as kind can be. And I will see you next week. Join the Patreon club. And yeah, guys, big hugs from the Midwest.